learn more about ancient Egypt, culture, and civilization, it is of great importance to discover more about ancient Egypt. And let me tell you something. It is very interesting to learn that when we talk about ancient Egypt, we also need to talk about the first capital of Egypt that was ever founded. Today we're going back to the first dynasty. And the most important part here is that we need to learn about Memphis. Memphis was the first capital of ancient Egypt after the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt. In this place, we feel like walking through history, walking through time, because this is something very, very interesting. If you want to learn more about Egypt, Egypt is a country to discover and to explore. Many different places that you can enjoy here. Let's find out together more about this area and more about something that is really very, very interesting that we are going to move inside now to learn where are we standing today. The open-air museum at Memphis is one of the must-see sites in Egypt. The trip from Cairo only takes about 45 minutes, as it is only 20 kilometers to the south. It was founded in the first dynasty by King Narmer. Memphis was the capital of ancient Egypt, and the first capital city founded after the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt. It remained as the capital of ancient Egypt throughout the Old Kingdom. Because of the many necropolises associated with Memphis, many Egyptologists believe that it was once an extremely large city. The name of Memphis is derived from the ancient Egyptian name called Men-Nefer, which the Greeks later called Memphis. Today, it is the location of a local village called Mitrahina. At that time, the local god of Memphis was called Ptah, who was the god of creation and workmen, and he was worshipped with his wife, the goddess Sekhmet, and their son, the god Nefertum. Nothing much remains from ancient Memphis, except some monuments from the New Kingdom and later periods.
Today, on visiting the Mitrahina Museum, you will be impressed not only by the history of the place, but also by the masterpiece in the huge limestone colossus of King Ramses II. The Colossus of Ramses II is an enormous statue carved in limestone. It is about 33.8 feet long, even though it has no feet. Actually, this museum has been built to house this magnificent piece. The fallen colossus was found near the south gate of the Temple of Ptah, located about 30 meters from a huge limestone statue of Ramses. Some of the original colors are still partly preserved. This piece was found in 1820 by an Italian traveler, Giovanni Cavaglia. The Colossus is an incredible piece of work. Ramses is portrayed in the prone position, but as we can see, the piece is unfinished. How the piece was made often eludes most guests who visit the statue.
So first of all, welcome in Egypt, and tell me more about your impression visiting Egypt for the first time.
I think everyone has been really friendly so far. It's even more impressive than to see Egypt in person and all the architecture and archaeological sites. It's even more amazing to see it in person than it is on TV and
From where do you come?
from Florida.
How long do you plan to stay?
8 days.
Tell me, what are you going to do during the 8 days? What are the important sites that you have to stop at?
I'm going to go all throughout Cairo and do some sightseeing there, and then go down a Nile River cruise, and back up in Cairo. We're going to go to Memphis today.
Yesterday you went to the pyramids, right?
No, I got in late last night. I went to sleep.
So this is the first place to visit today.
We went to see some of the pyramids earlier this morning.
What about your impression about the Giza pyramids?
Oh my gosh, it was so amazing. Just the carvings and how intricate the details are, and just standing somewhere that has been built thousands of years ago is just mind-blowing.
Did you read about it before you come?
I mean, we learned about it in school when we're little, but nothing prepares you for actually seeing it in person.
But you thought about the idea of visiting this area, for example, after reading about it when you were young, or you just forgot about it?
No, it's always just been in the back of my mind. I wanted to see something this ancient and this has so much rich history and culture, and then finally I just decided to do it.
Coming to this place, Mitrahina Museum in Memphis, not all people are aware of this place actually, but I always say that it is really very, very interesting to come to the area where it used to be the first capital of ancient Egypt ever after the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt. So if you think about this idea and thinking about history and the statue inside Ramses II, how do you feel about it?
I had no idea this amazing statue even existed before coming here today. And my lovely tour guide, Ashraf, took me here. It was just mind blowing just to see how huge it is in the scale, how big it is, and how it just nobody knew it was there for such a long time, and then they found it and cleaned it out, and there's this beautiful statue.
And talking about Ramses II, do you know anything about him?
I know my tour guide told me he lived for 89 years.
And you'll find many statues actually for him. He used to be one of the ancient heroes in history. He's very famous actually.
Yeah.
So going back to Florida and talking to your people, I'm sure you got many great pictures and still you will take more and more. So what are you going to tell them about your visit to Egypt?
That it so far has even exceeded my expectations. That you can look at the stuff in the National Geographic in your textbooks when you're little and on the internet, but seeing it in person is way, way better.
You invite them to come.
Yeah, definitely.
Where is the place that you would love to visit?
In the whole world.
Here. In Egypt.
God, I just want to go. I want to go on the Nile cruise and see that, and just know that how much has gone down to support the life in Egypt from that river, and what amazing part of history it has been.
Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy your vacation in Egypt. And what is your final word about Egypt?
It's amazing here. You have a beautiful country.
Just think how the maker of this statue was able to sculpture such huge tons of blocks and then at the task of roughly hewing it into shape. What an effort exerted by workers sufficiently numerous, supervised and driven, and persistence, of course, on this grand scale is very clear. The essence of this great statue lies in the many square yards of its carved surface. Ramses II used to be one of the most famous ancient pharaohs. He was keen to build many huge temples and statues to commemorate his reign. He was the third pharaoh of the 19th dynasty. He was one of the most powerful and influential pharaohs of ancient Egypt. He took the throne of Egypt in his early 20s and ruled for 66 years until his death. He was the third ruler of the 19th dynasty and ruled for an amazing 66 years the second longest reign of the ancient Egyptian pharaohs. Perhaps the best known achievements of Ramses the Great are his architectural endeavors, most notable the Ramesseum and the temples of Abu Simbel. Ramses II's interest in architecture resulted in the erection of more monuments than any of the other ancient Egyptian pharaohs. A significant number of architectural tributes attributed to Ramses II still dominate the landscape of Egypt today. This statue, unearthed at Memphis, was thought to have been commissioned by Ramses II himself. It has shown people today how large of an impact Ramses the Great had on the artwork of his day. Other sites have yielded similar large Ramses II statues. The reign of Ramses II was marked by numerous military battles, and he became one of the famous Egyptian pharaohs known for his military strength. The military genius of Ramses II helped to secure Egypt's borders from foreign invaders and pirates along the Mediterranean and in Libya. He managed to fend off invasions from the Hittites and Nubians.
About the concept of the Sphinx for ancient Egyptian. Well, of course, whenever you look at the Sphinx, you have to feel about it the concept of power, of domination. That's why usually ancient Egyptians believed in the idea of having a statue in the form of a Sphinx. Well, right now we're going to move around to find out more about this statue and more about the idea of the Sphinx in general for ancient Egyptians.
character of Ramses II is very interesting, and it reflects a very important period of time. And for those who are interested in history, it is enough to arrange for a trip just to follow Ramses II monuments and temples, and no one can ever imagine how amazing they are. In the garden of the museum, there is another giant alabaster sphinx, weighing more than 80 tons, which once stood outside the massive temple of the god Ptah. There are also remains of granite statues of Ramses II and granite coffins and commemorative tablets from later periods. Taking a general look all around the area, it is Memphis that was founded around 3100 BC. The legendary city of Menes, the king who united Upper and Lower Egypt. And that is what remains for today, just as a memorial place for such a great history. But there is little left of the city today. At least that can be seen. Originally, the city had many fine temples, palaces, and gardens. But today, other than the scattered ruins, most of the city is gone or lies beneath cultivated fields. Nile Sultan local villages. What we do know of Memphis comes to us from its necropolises, mentioned above, text and papyrus from other parts of Egypt, and also Herodotus, who visited the city. The fraction we can see of Memphis today is located principally around the small village of Mitrahina, and we believe that Ptah was the principal pagan god worshipped in Memphis. The remains of the gods' templing bordering the village of Mitrahina was at one time probably one of the grandest temples in Egypt. Today, only a fraction of the temple remains, which was originally excavated by the famous Egyptologist W.M. Flinders Petrie between 1908 and 1913. Ramses II is well represented here, with the colossus of himself near the alabaster sphinx along the southern enclosure wall. Other remains include an enclosure with a ruined palace of Apis to the north of the temple of Ptah.
Well, that was all for our backpack for today. Thank you all for joining us. Remember, next week we will be back to bring you all about Egypt and all about the beautiful sites where you can enjoy your vacation. Till then, thank you for joining us and see you again next week, same time and more on Backpack.